I believe that there are two kinds of people in the world. We have dreamers, and then we have doers. So, what do they look like? I really don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. But I'm going to start by sharing a quick story on how I think I've been both. My father lost his corporate job when I was 14 years old, and also had to foreclose his business at the time he had because of incurring a huge loss. My mother, who worked in a bank at the time, also had to quit because of her health issues. As I turned 16, it was time for me to choose a college. And I'd always dreamt of getting into an Indian Institute of Technology. But little did I knew that it was nearly impossible for me to get into any college, and let alone the IIT, because of the crunch we were in as a family. So as I turned 16, I was pushed down the steep road called the Responsibility Street by someone called Mr. Circumstances. And it was then I realized that I had to take actions about the things that were important to me if I had to make things happen. Just dreaming won't do. I remember applying for nearly 13 odd jobs at the time and getting rejected by all of them. And the comments were, hey, you're too young to work. Hey, you should go back to college. Hey, you're a bit undereducated. We need at least bachelors. And so on. But I didn't let that stop me. And because of my persistent nature, I finally got that job in April 2010. When I did, something interesting happened. A seed of change was planted deep inside me. And the real issue was I was an epitome of outcome dependence. My battle wasn't over yet. I always used to think, what if I'm no good? What if I can't achieve my targets at work? How am I going to pay my college? This also led to another problem, and that's what we call self-consciousness. Because of course you can be outcome dependent in putting so much value on other things. That's one thing. But then also you can be self-conscious because you're depending on other people for your good emotions. But lucky for me, I was really fortunate because the firm I landed, I ran into people that helped me regain the confidence that my self-doubting lifestyle had stolen from me. I would never forget the moment I realized that I could create my own miracle. In May 2010, I withdrew my first paycheck and I paid first term of my college. The seed of believing that I was talking about, that had been planted in my garden of self-doubt, it took root and it started to grow. And about a year and a half of walking in, I walked across the stage as I was conferred my Employee of the Year award. I was 18 at the time. And since then, I've been supporting myself and my family entirely. Now, what did I do to become free of outcome dependence? One very simple thing. I started to love the process itself and stopped thinking about the end results. Because it's the process that makes you. It's the process that strengthens you. Anything we want too much of it, it begins to move away from us. If I failed at something, if and when I failed at something, which I'm sure all of us do at some point, I didn't take it as if it was the end of the world. Because I believe that each time you fall, you pick yourself up and you come back much stronger. I realized that I had about 18 odd hours a day, and I wanted to maximize those 18 hours. So I opened myself to self-learning. I went to college at night, and I worked full-time during the day with about 4 hours of sleep. Most importantly, I didn't give in, and I didn't give up. It was discomforting. It wasn't easy. But I realized while that time created the greatest amount of discomfort I'd ever felt, it was that discomfort, that shift from fun life of a teen that changed me for the better. You see, what stands between us and achieving our most ambitious goals has far less to do with possessing some magical skill or talent, and far more to do with how we approach problems and make decisions to solve them, how we deal with setbacks. We set goals for ourselves, don't we? But what we at the time don't realize, perhaps, is our goals are the things that are outside of our reach. Anything you want to do, whatever is it that you want to do. If you're a student and you want to achieve A in your class, I'm sorry, but that's outside of your control. Because you don't get to write A's on all your papers. I wish it was that. You have teacher who's going to do that. Teacher who gave you assignments. Someone else is setting the curriculum, and someone else is grading you. You do not get to control what your grade is. If you want to become a successful business owner, you don't get to make all the sales to yourself. You don't get to do both the sides of transactions to yourself. You have to recruit what we call customers in your life. What I'm trying to say is our goals are the things that are outside of our control. Therefore, if you focus too much on the outcome, I'm afraid you will never achieve them. But behavior, by contrast, are something that you alone can do. It doesn't take a parent, a teacher, a neighbor, a spouse, a child. It doesn't take anybody else. You alone can control your behavior, and those are the things that you should focus on in order to achieve your goals. And interestingly, because of the continuous and compounding nature of all those decisions that we face on the daily basis, even a marginal improvement in your behavior, which I'm pretty sure is achievable by all of us in the room, can have huge impact to the end results. I'll give you an example. Who in here is guilty of putting off things till last minute? Or dare I say the word procrastination? Exactly, we all are. When I was asked what did I want to talk about at TED, I said, I want to talk about procrastination. Seems to be a hot topic. But, and did my research, I was baffled. There were so many videos on the subject already. But there was one thing in common in all those videos. There was one thing that was very common. They all lacked one very simple, yet very crucial advice, which was to take one step at a time. Because don't get me wrong, you can't go from procrastinating on a legendary level to not doing it at all. And by legendary level, I mean I used to practice this extreme sport of doing your homework while your teacher is collecting it. And I remember a funny story. I was on YouTube one day and a video suggestion popped up, how not to procrastinate. And I clicked on add to watch later. So, marginal improvement example. Okay, so let's say it's Friday afternoon. You're sat on your couch, flicking through your Facebook feed, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever is it that's your favorite. in that moment, make the decision to put it down. I know it sounds hard, but trust me. Make that decision to put it down and start with that assignment 2 hours before the deadline instead of 1. And then 3 hours before the deadline instead of 2. And then 4 hours before the deadline instead of 3. And suddenly, you'll find yourself doing them a day before the deadline and then a week before the deadline. You see, we break these big, complex ideas. You break them down into small and much more manageable tasks. And along the way, you make marginal improvement to the process that ups the odds of success in your favor. And for those who simply can't stop procrastinating, don't worry, there's something that you can do too. See, the procrastination has 2 meanings. The first one is destructive laziness, the one that we tend to associate it with. There's another meaning to it as well, which is wisely waiting for the right time. I know it sounds funny, but believe me, by indulging into something called productive procrastination, bear with me, it can actually get us better results if, let's say, we've got a problem to solve, or if we're trying to prepare ourselves to work under pressure. Okay, you might not get the best results straight away, but believe me, if you keep giving your brains time to play with and to examine these random bits of information, to spark ideas, those ideas that percolate with procrastination are likely to be far more creative than if we were to just churn out a task in as little time as possible. If I can leave you with one question, let it be this. Is there really a need to live life on full throttle? I'll let you be the judge. Thank you.